this is episode 8 of Oluswole, the podcast on a budget. I'm excited to welcome two longtime friends of mine. We've been pals for more than 9 years. Sebi and Rushil, what's good?
Yo, how's it going, my guy?
Yeah, everything's good. What about you, Sebi? How are you?
Yeah, pretty good myself. I'm really excited to be on the podcast. To get this started. Glad to be part of the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we've ever actually had two people on at the same time, so this is actually quite monumental. Like, this is a big deal. Yeah.
Exciting time. Yeah, I'm honored to be here, Timmy. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem, dude. Sebi, were you saying something?
I was just saying the dynamic duo.
Exactly. Dynamic trio, the three of us.
There we have it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So just for a bit of context for the audience, we met in year 5/4th grade. That was 2011. We were the first batch of students at a brand new school, so it's kind of, everything was just kind of new. There were only about maybe 30 something people in our grade anyway. Pretty small school at that time, so
yeah,
we just all happened to be in the same form/homeroom class, and then we became friends, and now we're here on this podcast. Yeah, good times. What I wanted to ask you, and maybe we can start with Rushil, is do you have any standout memories from those days and like those early days? I'm talking like year 5 to year 7, 4th through 6th grade.
Ooh. Yeah, year 5 to year 7. It was interesting because I remember me not being the very much of a sporty person at that time. I used to hate sports at that time. And I think between year 5 to 7 was the first time I actually started running. And I think that was because of the school. So I think that was one of the main things. And then obviously on top of that, drama. Drama was my biggest as a achievement. From year 5, I think I did Jennings. And then what was it called? Les Mis.
Yeah.
Yeah, drama and sports were my biggest kind of achievements at that time. And obviously World Scholars Cup by the end of year 7. That was something I'd never done before. And I remember I used to being like so scared going through every debate or something. But after coming out of that, it was fun. It was really good. It was really good. But yeah, I think those stand out between year 5 and 7.
Yeah, get involved, Brighton, love that. Sebi, what about you?
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, one of the things I remember the most from the good old days, so to speak, was my very first day, in Miss Strong's class, in our form group, and actually the first person I met was Rushil, right?
Yeah.
We were doing yeah, there we go, and we had these sort of like group bonding activities we had to do. We had these like Lego pieces to put together, whatever, and we built some weird contraption which I don't quite recall. Maybe explains Rushil's engineering current paths. I'm sure they all stem from that one encounter. Doesn't explain my going into sociology, but I guess maybe it's because I sucked at it. No, but I'm good. But yeah, no, that's a really fun memory actually. That was really big because I was pretty scared going into a new school. I was like, well, what's the environment going to be like? Like the usual. Am I going to fit in? Is this going to be okay? But no, yeah, it actually ended up being such a nice experience, and yeah, it resulted in a lot of friendships. And another really nice memory I have is from like Rushil was saying, drama. Although for a second when he mentioned that, I wasn't quite sure if he was talking about people arguing and bickering over stupid reasons or the actual subject. But now I understand. Yeah, I remember in year 6 I had to play the character of Bruce Bogtrotter from Matilda, and highlight of that was the drama teacher making me stuff my face into a giant chocolate cake in front of everyone on stage, and that was amazing since basically my role was just to eat a cake as quickly as I could. And yeah, you can't go wrong with that, can you? So that was pretty fun. That was pretty good. And lying to the people, saying that I was allergic to makeup because I didn't want them to do my makeup or whatever, which was also don't tell anyone about that, okay? It's probably going on the podcast. We can cut this part off or something.
Nah, we'll keep it in.
Oh, no. It's perfectly fine. Hey, Mr. Cousins, I'm sorry if you're watching this. We're lying to you, but yeah, it is what it is.
You just put him on. You put him on blast right there. No,
Gotta start off strong.
exactly. No, I'm just kidding. I think for me, so many memories. I think it's just being. I think it's the vibe. I feel like it's kind of this. A vibe is like that sixth sense you feel when you're thinking about like a past memory. Like it's kind of hard to explain. It's like a combination of all your other five senses. It's basically like what you feel when you're when you're trying to remember something, and it's just the vibe of being in a brand new environment, hearing all those like British accents and all that, just from the teachers and the students.
I remember our accents. Our accents were so bad. They were just. I don't even remember what mine was. I remember going in first day, and my voice was just like, I don't know what I'm saying, but okay, an accent's coming out.
Oh, do you mean like your own accent?
Yeah, my own accent. Like,
oh, yeah.
First day of year 5, I don't know. I went up to Miss Strong and suddenly words started coming out in a really different sound that I never heard. And I was like, oh, okay, this is new.
The British influence.
The Brighton way.
Yeah.
The Brighton way.
For me, it wasn't, obviously you hear how I sound now. I don't think it really changed, but it was just my ability to do a British accent was horrible in year 5. Like, it was trash, but it got better as the more time I spent in that kind of environment, being surrounded by UK people. And it was also just being, it sounds cliche, it sounds like something you would write in a college essay, but just being in a super international environment, because I come from the US, so just meeting people from all across the world, like that was something that when you're 9 years old, you don't really internalize it, but in hindsight, that was something that was a pretty unique experience, and I would recommend living in an international environment to anyone, because it's just like the more worldviews you expand yourself to, the more you can expand your own. So yeah, I think those were two of the main highlights. I didn't do much acting. We all had to do that play in year 5 minutes or yeah. Even in that, like I was just there at the beginning of the play and at the end. I've never really had a big break in acting. I'm still waiting for that call from Hollywood, but yeah.
You're closer now.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm getting closer. This podcast is it's all part of a plan to make my big breakthrough onto the acting scene. Yeah. I wanted to kind of link into what I said and what we were talking about. Like, what were your biggest takeaways in terms of like the things you learned from living in that kind of environment for so long? Because that was the first for both of you guys. I think that was the first school in the UAE you guys schooled at, right?
For me, it was my second, actually. Not many people know this, but before Brighton, I went to an Indian school for about 2.5 years. So.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, for me, but it was like the first ever international school for me, like in the sense that I shifted from an Indian curriculum to a British curriculum, and the shift was like major. Like, because Indian curriculum is more based on like memorizing and learning, whereas in the UK system, it's more about understanding and applying. So to shift from that was a big thing. And on top of that, meeting people from like Seb's from Romania and like France, or local people, or Australia, or just around the world. Going through that was a very big transition for me, just because I learned a lot more about the world. Like now I want to diversify and diversify my travels. Like I really want to go and explore places like Romania, or perhaps the Scandinavian region, or Tokyo, or Japan, or Tokyo is in Japan, but Australia as well. But stuff like that just really helped me kind of influence like an international aspect that I never thought of before. And I think that's really important if you go to a university as well internationally, so that you go and respect their boundaries regardless. Like you just know, if you know that they're from a certain country, then you know in a way how to respect their boundaries or not. And I guess in that way, that's one thing I learned a lot just from being with different people in school.
I get you. And what about you, Sebi?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd love to show you around one day if you ever happen to show up around Romania or the Netherlands or whatever it may be. Yeah, I completely agree with Rushil from the international point of view, and I think that honestly, I would say that it's like I would completely agree with you guys. It's good to meet as many people from different backgrounds as possible, and because it kind of really like broadens your understanding of the world. You know, like I'm paraphrasing here, but a really wise person once said to me, you know, a host of pathways leads to success. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you gotta like explore, and like learn about different people and different environments and like really kind of experience it for yourself, because I think that's the best way to learn about things. Yeah, and for me, I think the biggest takeaway coming from Romanian system was that like really gaining a lot more self-confidence, I think, because yeah, I kind of agree with what Rushil was saying, because before that there was a lot more focus on sort of memorizing and kind of learning things very mechanically, like in our system as well. But like yeah, that was a big one for me. Coming to England and like not England but like English system, and you have like you have all these like different roles you can apply for, and you have all these different initiatives you can take, and you have all these sort of like speaking positions, and you have all these different extracurricular activities and things you can get involved with. That really kind of help to develop you as a person and figure out like what you like doing, who you are, and kind of to help develop your individuality and personality. Like I feel like that's really helped me grow as a person and kind of figure out who I am. And I don't think that's an opportunity I would have gotten in a lot of different places. So yeah, I'm really thankful for that. That was a really big one for me. That's one big takeaway. Like kind of discovering your own voice, so to speak. That was big.
Yeah, that's for real. And like what Rushil said, like just being able to be in that environment kind of teaches you about like the kind of boundaries you have to respect when it comes to other people's cultures, which you don't really get if you're living in an environment where everyone's a member of the same culture. And looking to what Sebi said about all the opportunities, I mean, yeah, I kind of had the same experience as well, even though, people associate America with like, or the American school system with like extracurriculars and all that. I came from an elementary school, which was like a regular public school from, pre-K to 5th grade. We didn't have all that. In fact, we didn't have any extracurriculars at all. So like no sports teams, none of that. So when I came here, it's just like, whoa, I saw the sign-up sheet for all the extracurriculars, and I was like, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So that was definitely a big deal for me, just getting involved and all that. Like that was a big thing. So I want to transition. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add something, but I think like I wasn't really one to take part into anything, but I remember they put this rule in year 5, 6, and 7 that you have to take at least a minimum of 3 ECAs or CCAs, whatever they were called back then. And I think that really pushed me on to see like, there's more to life than grades and studies. And I think that's something I say is lacking in like an Indian education system still till now. They're trying to evolve it, but it's all obviously on a slow rate. But that's one thing I learned majorly in the UK system, that there's more to life than just your grades or like, your studies. You have to develop everything else to kind of get well-rounded, which I think is important, or was important for me, especially the way I am now.
For sure, yeah. There's definitely more to a student than, their transcripts. Like, I mean, you have your own interests that you want to explore outside of academics, and being in an environment that gives you those extracurriculars gives you the opportunity to do that for sure. So yeah, definitely a big benefit of living in that kind of environment for sure. I wanted to transition to your day-to-day lives now. So we were talking about the past before. Let's transition to the present. You, Rushil, you're at University of Toronto. Sebi, you're at University of Amsterdam in Holland. But Rushil, you're schooling from home in the UAE, doing an online semester. And just want to ask both of you, like, what is it, especially in this kind of weird online Zoom environment we're in right now, how does your day-to-day schedule look like? We can start with Sebi.
Sure. Well, first things first, what I really enjoy now is having a certain degree of freedom over when I wake up. That wasn't the case in Brighton. Had to get up nice and early in the morning, which looking back was a bit of a pain, to say the least. I usually wake up, well, I don't know, it really depends, but on a university day, I try to wake up, say, around like 10, 9, 10, something like that. I do all my cooking more or less. I get some breakfast. I sometimes order takeaway, sometimes I cook, and then I'd say most of my day is usually preoccupied with university work. So whether it be watching lectures, attending Zoom seminars, kind of like reading through articles. So that's most of my day, and that would take up until probably 6 or 7. Then after that, I just have some time in the afternoon where maybe I can call and check on my family or talk to friends, hang out, play some video games, and get ready for the next day. And that's where when I have more free time in the weekends or whatever, since Amsterdam is a really good place to cycle, I really love doing that in my downtime. And just kind of traveling around, seeing a lot of cool things, exploring. It's also been really, really, really good. I've come to appreciate the weather and having slightly more options than hot and slightly less hot, which is also nice sometimes.
Yeah, I've never been to Amsterdam, but I've seen how Holland looks like, and I'm like, yo, I really want to go there because it just seems like one of those, especially as a young person, I feel like it's one of those places you just want to be. And just the vibe of the city, the culture, and just the environment. I feel like it would just be I can imagine just breathing in the air. It's just, I feel like it's just a nice place to be. And the point you bring up about waking up early is definitely a big benefit of just being on your own time, because I'm not gonna lie, I know it sounds lazy, but I don't see why school needs to start at 7:45. I think in Finland or a Scandinavian country, they start school later and they end school later, which kind of makes more sense, because I feel like starting school earlier doesn't add to your productivity. I feel like it actually makes it worse, because you're just cutting into another hour's sleep you could potentially have. So I intentionally schedule my classes later in the day. My earliest class is at 10:30, but the rest of my classes are at 12, 1:30, 5 p.m. So I try to avoid that. And usually, you can give your own response.
Well, for me, it's actually very different, because even though I'm staying in Abu Dhabi, I've shifted my timing to as if I'm being in Toronto. So my laptop or anything that's work related has a Toronto timing, not Abu Dhabi timing anymore. So I wake up at perhaps 3 in the afternoon in Abu Dhabi timing, and that's I think about 5 in the morning in Toronto. So I start then, and then I spend about a few hours just freshening up, getting ready for the day, and then as soon as I sit down, I have my first lecture about 6 every single day. And most of my lectures are recorded. There are not many synchronous lessons, which I find it to be kind of a drawback, because I haven't been able to interact with people. But then to counteract that, I've taken part in team competitions, or a UTA, which is a space group. And then one of our courses is directly related to working in a group, so I've had to set up meetings for that every single day or every other day. So most of my time goes into lectures and meetings, and then all the other free time I usually either go spend time with my parents or make up notes, finish assignments. They get pretty rigorous every single week, and just spend time finishing it. And then through the night I'm just awake. So I have dinner, and then I have 4 hours until I go to bed at 7 in the morning, Abu Dhabi time. So most of my day consists of work, or just, talking to people about work and how we can complete them together. So that's kind of my routine, but it's become monotone lately just because I have finals coming up. So it's become the same routine: get out of bed, eat, come back here, work a few hours, eat, work back here, then sleep. So it's become monotone. But I guess during the start of this semester, especially every weekend, I used to go out, like drive. My parents used to, I like go lunch with my parents and then meet up with like a couple of guys or friends in the evening. So that used to be my schedule, but now it's just work until the next 3 weeks, and then I'm done with uni for first year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can kind of relate to, I mean, that's an engineering grind. I'm not an engineer, so I can't relate to that aspect, but I can relate to the time difference thing. It's a pretty big thing because last semester I was online. I was in the UAE as well, so we were in the same time zone. And Toronto and Philadelphia are both in Eastern time.
Same time, yeah.
Both at that time, because daylight savings hadn't started.
It was 9 hours.
It was 9 hours, yeah.
And now it's 8.
Yeah, so it's probably a bit better now, but back then when it was 9 hours behind, you said you were sleeping at 7 in the morning, waking up at 3. I was probably sleeping at maybe 9, 10 in the morning, and then waking up like 4, 5, kind of around that time. Like, yeah.
For me, it was just like whenever I sleep, I need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So,
Same.
So that's how I used to work with, like, okay, even if I have to work extra, I'll, let's say, sleep at 8:30, then 8 hours on, 4:30 I'll be awake. That's kind of like how I work, but I try to keep it 7 to 3 just so that it's consistent throughout every day.
I want to ask you, it's kind of weird, right? Just being like the daylight, there's daylight, but you're going to bed when it's daylight, and you're waking up and it's still daylight. So I wanted to ask you, like, is it weird kind of coordinating your body schedule in a environment where the natural environment doesn't reflect your sleep schedule? Does that make sense?
I've never been more of the type of guy like, I need to sleep at night or something. I really don't mind. I can sleep literally anywhere. That's kind of like my thing. Like, I can sleep anywhere. Even if we're going across a bumpy road, I'll sleep in the car. So I've never been about the thing about day cycles or night cycles. I'm just like, yeah, fine, whatever. And with this lamp that I have, it's pretty bright. So whenever I have it on at night, I don't really feel like, it's night outside or something. So I just feel like, I'm just working normally. And then when I go to bed, that's when I realize, like, oh, wow, it's actually bright outside. It's 7 a.m. Oh, I didn't realize. So for me, it's never been about night or day cycles. I'll just sleep whenever I want. So, yeah.
Adaptable. Love to see that.
Exactly.
Yeah, for me, it was a little weird, I'm not going to lie, starting off, because it was just like sleeping in the morning and then waking up in the afternoon. It's whack. But you get used to it, like you said. And hopefully you're able to come back next semester, because I can say being at home and doing school is not fun, to be honest. At least for me. I don't know if you disagree. But
it was fine at the beginning, but now it's just becoming a stretch, just because, like, we've also got the news that they're planning to open up, so that excitement just builds up, like, okay, now they're planning to go open up, now I need to be there. So that excitement builds up.
Got you. Yeah, and then Sebi, you're at the University of Amsterdam.
Yes,
and
sir.
how have you been able to explore, because we kind of talked about this before, how have you been able to explore certain places in Holland? Because I know they have I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the Jordan and Amsterdam canals, which are really popular. There's the Van Gogh Museum, which looks pretty dope. I'm just wondering, like, have you been able to explore those opportunities yet?
Oh, yeah. Well, you've done your research, man. Yeah, certainly. So for the canals, I would say that, especially the more central we get in the city, like, it's pretty difficult not to explore them because they're like literally everywhere. Like, if you look at any picture, like half the city is like canals. So if you're just like cycling or anything, you're probably gonna find your way across next to one, and it is really nice. Like, you can just kind of chill by there. Like, there's all these. They're closed now, sadly, but there's all these like nice little like, like cozy pubs and restaurants, where you can, like, at the corner of some like shop where you like picturesque, like at the corner of some street, or should I say? So yeah, that's certainly nice. I usually cycle quite a lot, like I said before, so that helps to kind of explore the city because it's relatively like you've got bike lanes next to every road lane, so you can basically cycle anywhere you want. And because the city isn't that big per se, you can like get anywhere within the city pretty much by like from the center, but like it's about like 30 minutes worth of cycling or something. You know, let's say you want to go from like the furthest part in the north to the furthest part in the south or something. Maybe you will take like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, max an hour, but like that's still like relatively manageable. So yeah, I've been cycling quite a lot. Yeah, and for the museums and stuff, I did go out to a lot of them. If you ever find yourself in the Netherlands, I have to. I'm not sponsored or anything, sadly. You know, working on that, I guess. But I have to recommend the Rijksmuseum. It's called. It's the biggest museum around in Amsterdam. I think it's like the National Museum, and like it's stunning. Like I've been there, and I was really upset because I spent like a few hours there, and I was like, oh my god, like. You know, it's gonna close up, and like, you know, there's still so much I want to explore, and I'm running out of time. And oh my god, no, that was really amazing. Yeah. So yeah, Amsterdam has a lot of museums, and I'd say a lot of things to your taste as well. You know, we have like a cat museum, chocolate museum. They give you free tasters at the chocolate museums I found. So yeah, something too.
Chocolate
so,
museum.
You're gonna give us a free tour of the city when we're there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you guys get on your bikes and we can hop around and explore. Definitely. I can't wait to show you guys around. But yeah, it's a really pretty city and it's really nice and cozy. And I've had a lot of fun kind of exploring it, I guess.
World tour. If you're going to world tour through Amsterdam, we got to tap in with Sebi for sure.
Absolutely. Maybe season 2 for Oluswole can be done from different places in the world or something.
That would actually be pretty cool. Like if
Oluswole gone worldwide.
Oluswole gone worldwide. Yeah, I mean technically, Oluswole is already global because we got listeners in 6 continents. So that's kind of crazy.
What more can you ask?
What's missing? Antarctica?
Exactly. Yeah, Antarctica. Oh. That's the last Infinity Stone right now. I'm trying to get that one. Yeah.
We'll get someone there.
You can send Latvia across or something.
Yeah, we'll dispatch him over there. You can be our troop. Yeah. And the chocolate museum, that sounds, I mean, first you went from eating chocolate cake to, you know, being nearby to a chocolate museum. I mean, that sounds like a pretty tasty trip, potentially.
Connoisseur, what can I say?
Exactly. That's something I want to tap in with if I'm in Amsterdam. It's one of many things. It's just one of those vibrant places to be. So I'm happy that, you know, you're enjoying the place. That's pretty cool. And you... At least, I don't know if you're still doing it now, but you do research under your school's Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Like, what's that about?
Yeah, okay, I can explain a bit about that since I think it's not a very famous subject. But personally, I'm taking sociology. I'm studying a 3-year course, a bachelor's so far. And yeah, like, sociology is really, to say it very briefly, like, it's the science of human interaction and organization. So what we do is we like literally look at anything, literally anything you can look at, and we kind of try to develop theories and perspectives about why humans do things the way they do, especially in groups and organizations. We kind of look at how groups and organizations function, but also how these organizations then have an effect on individual people and the way they live their lives. And we kind of have a look at that kind of interaction between the individual and the environment that shapes the individual and how they relate to one another. And I've been really loving it so far.
That's pretty dope. And this is a question for both of you guys. Since we're still kind of stuck in an online environment, but are there any kind of clubs you're interested in joining that you're looking to take advantage of at least next semester, or maybe clubs you're involved in right now?
So I'm part of this club. It's called UTAT, or it's short for University of Toronto Aerospace Team. And basically, this is a team which, like, over the past years, they've built 3 rockets. And this year, I'm working towards like a project, and I'm in the propulsion team. So we're working on like a bi-propellant rocket. So being in that, I've only started in January, but I've already like been part of a group of three, and us three have been working on stuff like ignition systems, engine cooling, and now we're working on testing and stuff. So we've been doing a lot of online work. We even did a mini presentation on it, like to a it's called Space Canada. Like it's an international, not an international, but it's kind of like an organization that like looks at space programs all across universities in Canada. So we've done a presentation to that, and the main focus now is that after exams, we will try and finish a theoretical design on paper, and do all the paperwork, all the presentations, all the write up of like, I don't know, I think it might be 100 pages, 200 pages, who knows, but built up to that. And then as soon as university starts in September, we're going to try and physically make it, test everything, and then, hopefully try and get it up there in the air. So yeah, I've already been part of that. And I'm looking at doing like perhaps maybe join the cricket club. They're making a cricket board there, and that's going to start like inter-university matches and stuff. So I'm really looking forward for that. But that's obviously dependent on whether they're going to open up or not. But it's something I've already enrolled in, my interest in, as well as badminton. So sport and science. But then there's obviously a lot of coursework that I have to do on my own. So I'm not that focused into clubs as of yet.
Yeah. How do you, since you're interested in joining the cricket club, like how are you gonna keep your skills up if you're at home a lot?
So lucky for me, I'm finishing university by the end of the month. So I have 4 months of summer, and I'm planning to spend about the major majority over here. So I can alternate my sleep schedule back to Abu Dhabi time and go for training like the Zayed Cricket Academy, I think it is. Yeah, that's where I used to go, and they have started like doing sessions every day, every other day, and they have a program now that lasts 3 months, which is perfect for me. So by the time I finish uni, I can just get into that and start like getting back into the flow, getting back my fitness and all that I haven't been able to do for the past, I guess, 6 months now. So by the time I'll go back to uni, I'll be, I guess, in proper fit flow, you could say. So yeah, that's my plan for now. Hopefully it works, but yes.
Yes, sir. And Sebi, just want to pass on the original question to you about any kind of clubs or societies trying to get involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. First of all, I gotta say, the rocket thing Rushil was talking about sounds super interesting. Like, I hope it all goes well for you guys. But even if it doesn't, like, I'm sure it was a wonderful experience. Fingers crossed, like, sounds really.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all the best. And in terms of clubs, I don't know, because the way it works in the Dutch system, you don't necessarily have clubs per se that are linked to the university, but they're more linked to you can start them with your friends or maybe in your neighborhood or something. So I'm not quite sure about that. What I would be interested in is following a honors module, which you can do next year, which kind of like it's kind of like a further module you can take to like on a specific field that interests you. So that'll be good. Yeah, and in terms of clubs, really, I mean, I'd be interested in a bunch of things, but we'll see what pops up. Whether it be like Rushil was saying, maybe something to do with sport, like I don't know, cycling, maybe hiking would be fun. Something to do with like football, even if I've never been too good at it. Or even something like more to do with maybe even literature, reading, video games. I'd be open to anything, but at the same time, we'll have to wait and see what the future brings.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, exciting times for both of y'all. I want to transition to something Rushil brought up. So you said you're doing chemical engineering, and that's a notoriously hard major. Like, I know I've met engineers or engineering students out here, and they're kind of down bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they're constantly probably the hardest working people. I mean, in terms of like their course load, they probably have one of the most rigorous course loads on campus out here, at least. Like, how is it like being on that engineer grind, and how did you have to adapt your mindset now that you're doing a pretty rigorous course?
It's very interesting because even though, like they say, even though you come from a UK system, you're already a year ahead if you're going to Canada and the US. Whereas actually that's not the case. Like a lot of my math subjects, I think I've done about 4 or 3 courses in math now. But even though I know the topics, I know how to apply it. They go into theory so much that all my questions are based on proof or something like, oh yeah, if we say this, is the theory right? Like, does it actually work? And I think that whole concept of like the theory behind the application is what's very interesting, and it's what very difficult to understand because they're made by scientists like back in like I don't know 1800s, 1900s. You know, they're proper proofs that you have to know word by word, and based on that, it has really kind of changed my mindset to not always be like, okay, I know this, I apply it. I now need to know why. Why am I doing it? If I don't understand why, then I will never get to the end of the answer, regardless. Like, you know, even if it's 10 marks, I may get the part marks or whatever, but I need to know why. I need to state my assumptions. I need to state everything. So the learning of the theory has been a very difficult, I guess, process for me because I've never been much about, you know, learning why something happens. I'm just like, okay, I know how to do it. Let's just apply it. But this time it's completely different. So switching from that mindset of like, yeah, apply. Now I have to like think about what I have to do. What process does it go through? How many steps are there? Lay it out properly, neatly, write your assumptions, and then do it systematically. And I think that switch is what I guess kind of makes or breaks engineers. If you understand that switch like instantly, you'll know what to do. You'll know how to do your work, which is fine as long as like, you know, you get the right answer or not, that's fine. That's just your application issue. But as soon as you know your structure, you'll get 90% of the marks, which is kind of like a hack of it. But at the same time, yeah, it's rigorous. There's a lot of stuff together. So keeping it in time and learning how to work it together is the main issue. But yeah, that's what it is. It is what it is, but we just get on with it.
Word, yeah. I mean, it definitely sounds pretty tough. Like theoretical math, I mean, that sounds really hard to understand. Because, you know, plugging and chugging is easy, but actually understanding the concepts behind it, I mean, that's tough. And then Sebi,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
you, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was just saying, like, they say A-level exams are considered to be one of the hardest, but they only prepare you on application basis. I don't know for perhaps about other subjects like history or anything. I did like the science subject, so they're mainly about application. They've never been too much about the theory, and I think that's why like people should not consider skipping a year if you're coming from an A-level kind of background. Like I didn't have an option. They said that whoever comes in, your first year courses are selected for you. Like you don't have a choice which courses you want to do, which courses you want to skip. So I didn't have a choice, but I remember like I was speaking to some person in another university that we went through because of the club, and he was saying like he made a big mistake jumping a few courses from A-level because now he's like lagging behind on the theory. So I guess that's like the main takeaway that I got kind of lucky with. I was considering skipping, but then I got lucky with it. So yeah, definitely a big move.
Blessing in disguise, you could say.
Exactly, definitely.
And then Sebi, for you as like a sociology major, I'm sure that means a lot of reading. And I have a few classes that are pretty reading and, you know, pretty reading heavy, pretty qualitative classes. I just feel like it's hard to just sustain your interest when you're like trying to absorb all that information. Like, how do you go about tackling your degree?
Well, yeah. In terms of the reading, that I can't really. That's what I'm saying. I can't really compare with like a lot of different subjects because I know that there's also a lot of reading and stuff involved there. But yeah, no, I'd say, you know, like it's definitely a struggle sometimes because you do have a lot of reading to do throughout the week, and you just kind of have to do it. And in terms of strategy, like I don't know, I'd say give yourself plenty of time. I guess you can take breaks in between. and really, yeah, like Rushil was saying, kind of try to go through it like sort of concept by concept as well to really understand the. It's more about like understanding how to do it first, like especially in terms of papers, because they all have a very similar structure. And once you kind of understand, like I always kind of look for, okay, this is what they're doing in introduction, this is what I do in the methodology. Then like I can understand that, and the results are like, yeah, okay, sure, like I can skim through that, I understand them, and then like there's a certain way to go about it. With certain more like philosophical stuff, I guess that it's a bit more difficult, but I'd say yeah, as long as like I don't know, personally I'm quite interested in that sort of stuff, so I'm okay with motivation myself. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that it's a bit of a struggle sometimes for them.
Hmm.
Yeah, and if I could also add to what Rushil was saying before, like with the, because he was talking about like how, like, you know, sort of like the assumptions and stuff, and kind of having to understand the thinking behind, like, yeah, that's something that I found as well, and it's really really interesting. You know, like even in history, like you were saying before, it was more about like not necessarily learning about dates, but it was more like, yeah, you learn these dates, and then you have like, you know, you have to make an essay about like how economic factors led to X, Y, Z. But now it's more a lot more about understanding like, yeah, but what are the theories behind it? And, you know, like, even if you have a certain idea or a certain theory, you know, everything comes with, like, assumptions. And, like, what assumptions are you making? And, like, it's a lot more sort of scientific. And I say that way, like, I also like it a lot more for that reason, actually, because I feel like it's, like, a much better understanding of what you're doing rather than just being like, yes, I know what I'm doing. I'm applying these numbers. And it's like, well, why? It is what it is, you know? Like, I personally really enjoy that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely helps you to understand like the inner machinations of the subject instead of just, you know, randomly doing stuff. Some people like that, some people don't. I was taking a math class last semester that had a lot of like theory. It was an intro. It was labeled as an intro math class, but really, it's the intro math class for, because I think that class, prior to my first year there, that class had multiple sections, like a non-engineering section and an engineering section, but they just changed it to an engineering only section, and that was part of the syllabus reform. And obviously, you know, you have a bunch of non-engineers taking a class for engineers.
Find it to me.
The class was OD. Class was tough. I mean, everyone is definitely the hardest class I've taken. Had me working a lot. And you know, if it fills a lot of like math requirements for a lot of people, regardless of their majors, so you had a bunch of non-engineers doing all this like theoretical type stuff, and it wasn't enjoyable for us. But I guess someone who's doing something more quantitative as a career probably appreciate that a bit more than we did. So I want to transition to the Oluswole Bowl as a part of the podcast, where we ask you some off-the-cuff questions about stuff that you know, you might have some interesting opinions on. They might be unrelated to what we're talking about in the podcast, or they might be somewhat related. We'll see. So you guys are both 19, and if you guys could turn back the clock, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
My 18-year-old self, I definitely say like I guess be very open-minded about things and about kind of like people and different ways of viewing the world, and like try to really dig as deep as you can and like understand as much as you can like why things are happening and why, like, you know, people I guess this is also linked to my subject, but like, you know, really try to take it in, and like before making assumptions or judgments or anything about people, to really try to understand where they're coming from, and to understand different points of view, and be really open about that sort of stuff. Yeah, and yeah. Keep persevering through everything. That's what I say.
Nice. Yeah. And Rushil?
For me, I think 18. Ooh, that's about what, 2019? Yes, that'd be 2019 for me. So I think like start of 2020 phase, like I had this phase of where, like, you know, I started spending, I guess, less time with like my, you know, like my kind of boys group, or like my best friends in that circle, that, you know, our corner in the common room, you know. And I think my message to my 18-year-old self would just be like, spend more time with your friends, I guess. Like, prioritize your friends and your family first, just because, they're going to always be there for you. And I kind of realized that after like lockdown started, and then I got the news that, oh yeah, school's canceled, exams canceled, you're not getting a graduation, you're not getting a prom. And then I realized like, oh shit, like I missed up on so much time with my friends or like my family during the school time that I wish now I had more, like, in lunchtimes interact with them more instead of going out or like doing some kind of activity or something. I'd rather stay with my friends, stay in that group, make jokes, make more memories, I guess. Just that, appreciate your family and friends more.
Word, yeah. It's definitely important. Your day ones are going to rock with you, so you got to appreciate them.
Yeah, could I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add, I guess the moral would be, make sure to spend as much time as you can with your friends, because you never know when a global pandemic's about to come, so you can't. But yeah, no, definitely same with me. I think that with the pandemic and stuff, especially during the time of quarantine, like when we had to quarantine for Brighton before we finished our A levels, I actually got a lot of like more time to kind of also spend with my family and also talking to friends and stuff. And I think it's really kind of caused a pretty fundamental change in me, I'd say, in sort of like appreciating those sorts of relationships. So I can also definitely really relate to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, one quick point.
Yeah.
Sorry. Drive more. Driving was so fun. Driving so fun.
I'm joking.
Driving's the best. Oh, I love driving.
I would recommend driving even though I don't have a license. But
Timmy.
Yeah, I'm not whipping yet, but I will be in time at some point. What would I tell my 18-year-old self? I'm still 18, so what would I tell my younger 18-year-old self? It's kind of tough, but I would just say I feel like I have a better understanding of. I know this sounds kind of conceited, but I have a better understanding of how I operate. So I feel like when I was 17, 18, like I knew what was important, I knew what wasn't important, but I feel like when it came to working, I feel like I wasn't maximizing, like my efficiency wasn't as high as it is now. Because I feel like I would still kind of surround myself with distractions a little bit, but I feel like now I have a better understanding of when to be distracted and when I shouldn't be distracted, and what my distractions are, what prevents me from being as effective as possible in certain situations. So I feel like just getting a better understanding of, because I think part of the reason why is because I never really sat down to reflect when I was 17, and as a young 18-year-old, like I was always just on go mode, thinking about like the next thing. So I think the lockdown kind of helped me reflect on some things, and that's just that's one of my main takeaways. What's the biggest misconception about you? Start with Rushil.
Well, I mean, I guess it's improved over the years, but I guess my biggest misconception was that I used to get angry very easily. Like, I would agree to that back in year 5 or 6. I do remember my tantrums in the PE changing room. But yeah, I guess now I've put myself under a lot more control on my anger. I guess that's one of my biggest misconceptions that always people have about me. Like, that they sometimes used to be afraid to come to me if they've forgotten something, or like, some random part of it. And then I used to be like, I've improved on it. I mean, I don't really care as much anymore, rather than if it's something, I guess, project related or deadline related, then I sometimes tend to lose my cool. But yeah, I guess that's probably my biggest misconception for now, that I used to get angry pretty easily. But yeah, I've improved on it.
Okay, I see what you mean. And Sebi?
Yeah, that's good to hear. As for me, I'm actually not too sure about this one. I have no idea myself. I actually don't know because I don't really. I'm sometimes I'm not exactly fully aware exactly what it is that people think about me, and I don't tend to pay too much attention to that personally. And maybe it's a bit too like I guess like you say conceited of me, but I actually wouldn't know. But it would be interesting to kind of like get other people's opinions and do like a bit of a look at this. But I personally have no idea on this one actually.
That's fair
But
enough.
if you
I
guys have
mean,
any suggestions, like you can hit me with any.
I remember back, like, I mean, back in year five, me and Sebi had this big ass fight based on, like, me and you being so competitive about grades and stuff. I remember this back in year five and six that we used to have a big fight about um, us arguing about our grades because, like, um, we were in the same science, same math, same English classes and everything. I remember, like, we used to compare our grades and we used to get so mad at each other if one or, well, if either of us used to get something higher. I remember that being very petty of us, but I guess that was a major misconception of mine really way back. I remember, I keep remembering this because I used to talk to my parents about it a lot. I was just like, oh, yeah, this Sevi guy, he thinks he's so good, he's full of himself, whatever, blah, blah,
Okay.
blah. But no, but I think I've told you this way long before, but I honestly, like, I respect you for that now. Like, you have a proper grind and I respect you for it. I guess
Yeah,
that motivates me as well in a way, like, I'm like, yo, bro, Sebi's gone there. Come on, I need to step up. I need to get there somehow.
on it. Yeah, maybe that's true actually. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is or there was some truth to that. I don't know. Yeah, personally, like I do really care about education and grades and stuff, but I think growing up as well, I used to be a lot more like you said, a bit like maybe too on it as well. I guess like I was like, man, I gotta get that like 100%, otherwise it's not good. But definitely I do really care a lot. But now it's more about like I'm just feeling like, oh, have I tried my best? Have I try to get a good understanding of things and yeah, but I don't really care as much about being like a perfectionist or anything about that anymore. But yeah, like I have to say that was a thing growing up for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. I think for me, no one ever thought I was a perfectionist, but so I didn't have that problem. But I think for me, especially being in the same place for 9 years, in the same school
Oh.
for 9 years, I feel like for me is like people kind of saw me as this like unemotional robot. Like I'm just this machine that just like I'm just
I would agree to that in year five. This guy never laughed. This guy,
Yeah, oh
forget
my gosh,
laughing, he
remember
never
yourself
smiles.
competition.
He never
Yourself competition.
smiles.
here's the thing though. Everyone says that, but the thing is, I did is just I was quiet. You know
It's
what I
just a
mean?
little bit
So
over
it's just,
funny. No, I'm
exactly.
joking.
I was quiet, so I wasn't even talking to a lot of people anyway. So like, you won't really see me, out there laughing like that or talking to begin with. But even when that was more year five. But even when I was like older, like you're 10 and up, like people just kind of. I think it's because my resting face is kind of hard, but people just kind of think like I'm some sort of just, I don't know, this robot, and I'm just like, I'm gonna try to overcompliment myself, but like think I'm some sort of super effective, super efficient guy who just has no feelings and is just gets things done, and has no other interests outside of debating in school or whatever. I feel like that was kind of people who know me well know that's not the case, like you guys. But I feel like when some people approach me who are acquaintances or don't know me as well, just to me on stage and stuff like that, I feel like they kind of had that notion about me. And I think even though the reason why I started this podcast is because I wanted to, connect with people and have the opportunity to do that on my own platform, because I think it's a really cool
Yeah.
thing. I think a tiny part of me kind of wanted to. I know it sounds like a very Gen Z thing to say, like, "Oh, I don't want to be labeled" or whatever. But a part of me was kind of like, I want to do something that people don't expect me to do, because no one saw this coming. So I kind of wanted to break the mold a little bit and change the game a little bit. So that's why, that's a small reason why I thought this podcast would be a good thing to start. But yeah, that's just my own, speaking on my own personal experiences there. Yeah.
Yeah, coming out of your shell a bit like that too, I guess, with the podcast, like putting yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been fun so far. This is the beginning of something special, I feel. Yeah.
I feel like, it's something like, let's say in the next 10 years or something, you'd look back, or like, let's say you've gone really old or something and you have kids or something, and you just show your kids like, yeah, look, I used to be this radio star, this podcast thing. Yeah, do this, it's very fun. I feel like it's going to be a very nostalgic thing, regardless, whatever it is. But regardless, it's going to be a very nostalgic, fun thing for you.
I agree. And because I think about the way I look back on Camera Shot, which was, and we made that from age. We made that from age.
Screenshots of all the 5LS, 5VE pictures. It's all on my phone.
Oh my!
Yes,
sir.
You
showed me some like a while back, and I was just like, oh my gosh, who are they?
Exactly.
Oh, we were kids.
I'm gonna plug Camera Shot. Go to, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to camerashotnewspapers.webs.com. Link is in the description. I'm gonna put that in the
I still have my login
description
details.
there.
I still have my login details.
I think both you guys are members, if I remember correctly. I'd like to. I don't know. Was Sebi a member? I know Rushil was.
I don't quite know. Yeah. I do remember you guys doing it, but I think I might have written. I might have been on a special issue for you guys, like written an article or something. But I don't think I was super involved with it.
No, I mean membership on the website. But I'm not sure.
Admin,
we'll see.
bro. I was like,
can we be expecting any more issues of Camera Shot?
Nah, Camera Shot's retired. Those are the golden days.
It's evolved into a podcast, Seb.
It's evolved, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Oh, just for the listeners watching, Camera Shot is a newspaper. We talked about it in episode 2, but it's a newspaper my friend Lofi and I created from age 10 to age 13, like 5th grade to 8th grade, and we just we were some young trailblazers. But what Rushil, trying to answer the question, like Rushil asked me, like you said, I'll look back at this podcast with nostalgia. I was thinking about how I look back at Camera Shot, and I look back on that with nostalgia. And obviously, we were young kids making that, so there's some things I look back on and I was like, wow, that was kind of cringe. But now, with this podcast, I'm 18 making it, so the tone is a bit more mature, and I feel like this is something I'll look back on and also be proud of, And I just wanted to have as many people on here as possible, just trying to expand the network, take over the space.
Absolutely. Spotify deal coming soon.
Hopefully, yeah. JRE type beat, Joe Rogan.
Spotify advertisements halfway through, like, unskippable 15-second ad.
Yeah, we're going to start reading
stuff.
Exactly. So I think this marks the end of the episode. Thank you guys for coming on here. I appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Yeah. It was a pleasure.
No problem, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Timmy, man. It's an honor to be on this show.
Best of luck with the podcast, and let's hope it just goes higher and higher. But yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support you guys have been showing. Oluswole is available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, our socials are linked in the description. Thank you guys for listening, and peace.